just watched All You Need Is Kill in theaters, and it feels wrong saying this, but the Hollywood version did it better. All You Need Is Kill was recently in theaters, and I saw it at AMC, and if you don't remember or you don't know, I don't need a reason to see anything anime at the movies. If I can use my A-list, then I'm in there. I went into this film with no context, and then I quickly realized I had seen this story before. If you saw this movie or the other movie adaptation, then go ahead and give me a like. If you're slightly confused, then give me a like anyways, but keep watching. Let's back it up. All You Need Is Kill is a science fiction light novel written by Hiroshi Sakurazaka and illustrated by Yoshitoshi Abe. It was published in December of 2004. That's right, this story is on the classic side, so it's not new material by any means. Then a manga adaptation was written by Ryosuke Takeuchi and illustrated by Takeshi Obata. It was serialized in Weekly Young Jump magazine between January and May 2014 and was also published by Viz Media in the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine. Finally, a separate graphic novel adaptation written by Nick Mamatas and illustrated by Lee Ferguson was released in North America in May of 2014. The story in the light novel is told from the perspective of KG, a fresh recruit in the United Defense Force fighting alien mimics who becomes trapped in a time loop. So after dying in battle, he wakes up, forced to repeat the same day over and over. He uses this loop to master combat, aiming to break the cycle and change his fate. He meets a fellow looper, Rita, and they continue their repeated fight 160 times. However, by the end, they realize that the loops have actually been affecting them both, so they must figure out a way to end the cycle and defeat the aliens. Now, in the anime film, there is a slight difference. So now Rita is our main character, and the alien threat is Daryl, an invasive plant. The plant awakens one day and begins attacking the defense force, killing nearly everyone. Rita finds herself in the loop and later discovers KG is also a looper. They work together to fight against the alien as well as the effects of the loop itself. This plot might be sounding very familiar to us Western folks, and that's because this story was adapted into the motion picture Edge of Tomorrow starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. Now in this film, a very cowardly Major William Cage is forced into basically a suicide mission. He dies and he becomes trapped in a time loop, reliving the same brutal battle daily. Cage gains combat skills, he teams up with the elite warrior, Rita, and they start to exploit the loop, destroy the alien, and save humanity. After watching All You Need Is Kill, I narrowed down things to two main questions. One, which was the better adaptation of the light novel? And two, was the protagonist switch a good choice? Before I get into that though, if you're just here for my review and rating, then this is the last part of the video you actually need to watch. I give All You Need Is Kill a solid 8. And the reason for that is I get the vibe that it's supposed to be, sci-fi, dystopian, but I hate it. And I do mean hate it, the art style. Everybody was so disproportionate. They had odd-shaped faces, far apart eyes, weird bodies. It was very off-putting. Now, this actually could have been intentional to the story, but I didn't like it. The ending was also a bit strange. The effects of the time loop, they were explained, but we didn't really get to see much of and really understand how they beat it because it was kind of absorbed into the defeat of Daryl. So it was kind of made one thing instead of separate. I like the story though, and I did like the movie, but the artistic choices definitely kind of put a damper on things for me personally. However, if you like science fiction and time travel type movies, then I still think this is definitely a good watch and you will enjoy it. So if you're satisfied, you can wrap up here. But if you want to know how I think this adaptation compares to Edge of Tomorrow, then I encourage you to keep watching. So back to my analysis. As much as I feel like I'm supposed to say All You Need Is Kill is the real answer of which one is better, for me it actually is the Edge of Tomorrow, and there are two main reasons. Now y'all hold on before y'all get to typing them comments, okay? Number one is the character arc execution. The anime film is Rita-centric, but it still feels kind of distant. But in Edge of Tomorrow, Cage's growth is really more gritty, and we felt more on the edge of our seats to see him get to the end and win. Hollywood simplified the science part a little more, but they made the story more emotional and easier to connect with. I will add a nuance here that Americans do tend to love films that have depictions of war. So this spin on trying to win a war, by being stuck in a loop had a lot of people locked in. Now, the second reason is the use of the time loop. In the anime film, the loop feels more like a feature of the plot. It's like a tool, and we don't really see the physical effects of it until the very end. Now, Hollywood really drove home that the loop was very torturous. We saw Cage do some crazy stuff to restart his day. And that's not to say that we didn't get glimpses of that in the anime film, because we definitely saw Rita's desperation. But in Edge of Tomorrow, the exhaustion was oozing out of the screen. And like I said, Cage did some crazy stuff to restart. Now, question 2, was the protagonist switch a good choice? That's what I'm on the fence about, because the lead was male in every other adaptation, but it was switched for the anime film. Now, the feminist in me loves this because, we love a Shiro. However, was it really necessary? I can't say that it was. And taking it a step further, Rita in the anime film was already a headstrong soldier from the very beginning. Now, Cage in Edge of Tomorrow, he was a coward starting out, and he had to grow up and grow in skill over time. So that comes down to a preference of which one is more impactful to you. There's nothing wrong with starting out strong, but it definitely is a little different when you don't. The difference is in the type of growth that we're watching, right? So with Cage, we watch a man who doesn't want to be there, and then he turns into someone who chooses to fight, and he's, really getting to it. So we see more of a transformation in the action film. And then with Rita, we're watching someone who's already headstrong carry more so the emotional weight of repeating death over and over. So now we get to see more of endurance. And I guess, like I said, that really boils down to a matter of preference, who is easier for you to root for. But all in all, different choices were made in All You Need Is Kill. Some worked, some didn't. But by no means am I saying that the movie was bad, okay? Because I actually really liked it. But I don't know that it was the strongest adaptation of this particular story. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Sometimes my content goes between the shows, so check out my series of things that happen between the episodes for more content like this, and don't forget to subscribe. When one arc ends, another one begins. See you next time.